From the Weather NorCal Command Center, this is your afternoon update.
Well, you're probably already noticing it here this afternoon, and we're going to notice it here throughout the day today. The warmer weather returns today, but it's going to level off the next few days. So temperature is leveling off through the weekend, but we still have those cool mornings to look forward to. We saw it this morning. We'll probably see it the next few mornings before those will eventually kind of probably stay in the 70s for next week. Speaking of next week, we got a bigger heat wave heading our way. This is something you've been hearing about really over the last 24 hours. There's been a lot of buzz on the internet. There's been a lot of rumors and misinformation about just how hot it's going to get. So let's get you right into it. Let's talk about, first of all, what we have today. Temperature is about 100 degrees here for the valley, 80s and 90s for the higher elevations, and for the coast, those highs in the low 60s. But when we look at the wind's not that much of a factor this afternoon for the valley. It's still pretty breezy along the coast, but even for the eastern mountains, not that bad. Now, later this evening, we may see a little area of stronger winds in western Siskiyou County, and not to mention out towards places like Redding as well. A little breezy off in the eastern mountains as well. We take you into tomorrow. Now, tomorrow the winds are going to pick up again, especially in the afternoon. Not so bad for the first half of the day. Even for the eastern mountains, still those strong north winds along the coast. So what that means for our fire weather risk for the next couple of days, of course, the rest of the afternoon today, again, not that bad in that moderate risk, but then it increases, especially in Tehama County with those gusty winds and around Redding as well. But notice the mountains. We're mainly in that low category here, and that'll be the case even for Saturday for the mountains, but looks like some more elevated fire risk because of those winds picking up late in the day on Saturday. All right, so let's talk about the heat and what's causing it and what's preventing it and all that good stuff, right? So this is what kept our temperatures down yesterday. That was the peak of the cooling trend. This is not going to come as far south as this area of low pressure, so not as cool with this system. And then there's another one behind that it's not going to have much of an impact at all. So as a result, the National Weather Service has issued a excessive heat watch for the Sacramento Valley and the surrounding foothills. Now, I've got high. This is, by the way, won't take effect until Tuesday. Tuesday through the rest and through the end of next week, Friday. I've got highs at 110 degrees plus. Now, the reason I don't have specific numbers on there is because there's still some fine tuning on just how hot it's going to get. You may have been hearing numbers like 120 and even over 120 degrees. We're going to put that in a little bit more reality here for you here in a second. But the overnight lows is also something we've got to take a close look at, because if we struggle to get out of the 70s and don't drop below 70 degrees, then there's not much relief from that heat, and it makes it difficult to recover from the heat that we see during the day. So this is what gave us the cooling temperatures yesterday. We're watching this dome of high pressure here, another root of high pressure off to our west, the heat, right? So watch what happens. Both this bubble of heat and this is building and expanding over the weekend. But we've got this cooler air here riding to the north, preventing that from building as strong at this point. So we got what we call a trough of low pressure. So it's still hot, right? We're still talking about 100 degrees, give or take, for the valley. And of course, 90s, 80s and 90s for the higher elevations. But it's not as hot as it could get. But once this moves out, this cooler air is having a hard time riding over this ridge, because this ridge is building and getting stronger. But shifting gears to fire danger, high pressure to our west. This is a classic setup where you've got those northerly winds. And as you know, it's a warm, dry wind that could elevate our fire danger come Monday and Tuesday. All right, we'll switch gears, because by the time we get to Wednesday, the winds die down and this heat really builds on top of us. Now, this is something you hear about. You've probably heard about it many times now. It's called a dome of high pressure. At the very tip of that dome, at the surface where we are, that's where you're going to have the hottest temperatures. As you start getting in the outer perimeter of that dome, the temperatures aren't as hot, but still hot, just not as hot. So notice that dome is almost pretty much right on top of us. So as a result, we're going to see the hottest temperatures we've seen so far for the year, probably even break some records. That's looking at the 4th of July. Look at the end of next week and a week from this upcoming Saturday. So this is July 6th. That dome of high pressure, based on this forecast model, it expands, it gets even larger. So it could get even hotter as we go into that next weekend. Now, there's still some fine tuning to this forecast. This is going to change. This may even be stronger or it may be weaker. We're going to have to watch it closely here as we get to that next weekend. We've still got to get through this weekend and next week before we start talking about July 6th. So just a heads up that that's the trend that we're monitoring here. This cooler air here, you see what's happening? It's just having a hard time riding over that ridge. We've got to flatten this ridge out before we can really start to cool things off. So again, we're looking out over 10 days at this point. So just kind of a reminder of that. All right, let's take a look at your forecast for today. Not so bad, right about 100 degrees, give or take, something we're used to around here. Temperatures in the 80s for most of the higher elevations, although some of the warmer spots in the mountains will be in the low 90s, and then I do expect some low 60s for the coast. All right, let's take a look at that 7-day outlook. You better idea of what's going on here. All right, so we level off. You see how the next 3 days, upper 90s to a little over 100 degrees. That's what I expect here. 100 degrees, give or take, through Sunday. Temperatures start to increase. We're up to 112 on Wednesday, and then the 4th of July, a slight dip. But they may actually go back up again after that, going into Friday and even into that Saturday. All right, let's take a look at the coast. The coast is also being impacted temperature-wise. We're in the low 70s. By the time we get into Wednesday, Thursday, inland, Weaverville, you're getting up over 100 degrees as well as we get to the beginning and middle of next week. And how about Mount Shasta, Alturas, and Susanville? Not quite the triple digits, but boy, it is getting close. Look at Mount Shasta, up to 98 degrees by the 4th of July. Alturas, look at this. Also maybe a chance for showers and thunderstorms late in the day Sunday. That's also the case for Susanville. So we have to watch for the potential for dry lightning, unfortunately, at that point. But again, we're seeing those temperatures increase really across the board, especially as we go through next week.
At Cottonwood Small Animal Clinic and Cottonwood Veterinary Clinic, we're here to provide the best possible care for your patients. We understand that your pet is your family member, and when your family member is sick, they need urgent help.
All our staff is so passionate about the care that goes into all your little creatures. Making relationships with pet parents here in Cottonwood is the greatest feeling in the world. Come find us off the Gas Point exit here in the heart of Cottonwood.